I will go ahead and share my screen. Let me share the entire screen. And we will jump right on in. So welcome everyone. I'm grateful that you're willing to take some time from your lunch hour today to talk about continual career improvement. For those of you who don't know me, I am Tracie. I've been a business analyst for a long time. I'm a CBAP and a Scrum Master. I've got a certificate in project management, a master's in enterprise architecture, and a doctorate in strategic leadership. I've also got a podcast and career coaching and consulting sideline. So if you're interested in new podcast material, you can find me on Apple and Spotify. So today we're going to talk about continual career improvement. First, we're going to talk about VUCA. Then we'll talk about a couple of research models. First is the health belief model, and we'll talk about how we can do our own career health checkup. And then we'll get into the continual improvement model, and we'll spin that a little bit so that we focus on continual career improvement, and then we'll wrap up. So first of all, let's talk about VUCA. So if you are unfamiliar with the term VUCA, it's one that's been around for several years now. It refers to volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So it occurs in organizations, it occurs in regular life. And the impact of VUCA leads to VUCA in our careers and in our personal lives. So we're going to dive into each of these one at a time. The first is volatility. So volatility is when there's a tense and unstable situation. Say, for example, we had a pandemic, we have supply chain logistics challenges, and we need to know how to respond to volatility. So we ask ourselves certain questions. Will this create a spike in prices? If so, how high? How long will it last? How can we be more agile? The same questions would apply to our careers as we try and answer those questions. Is this going to be a challenge to my current job? If so, am I agile enough to be able to do something different if I need to? How long will the volatility last? And what will be the impact of volatility on me? And the next one is uncertainty, and we've certainly seen a lot of that in the last several years. It leaves us with a situation where we've got a lack of knowledge of whether an event is likely to occur or not. And so we need to always try and get better information so that we can be more certain instead of uncertain. And then complexity. I think we can all agree that the world is becoming increasingly complex and interconnected. Organizations grow larger, complexity increases, there's more bureaucracy, there's more structure, there's more stakeholders, there could be more markets. And as this complexity increases, organizations may choose to restructure and simplify. And the same can apply to our careers. Maybe we now have families to support. Maybe we're housing challenged. Maybe we moved further from an office and we're being told to be in the office more. How can we accomplish our goals, and is there anything that we need to restructure or simplify? And then finally, ambiguity. Ambiguity, there's no obvious cause and effect. It's really ambiguous. Different from uncertainty. Waiting to gather more information likely isn't going to help, but it calls for ambiguity is when we can take calculated risks, we can try different strategies and do some analysis to see whether we've got some confidence as to which strategy will be best. So let's talk about some numbers. As we're thinking about VUCA and we're thinking about our careers, over 152,000 tech workers were laid off in 2024. That's all around the world. Between December and January, there were 161,000 new COVID cases. And we're all hearing about AI and hundreds of millions of people who may need to adjust course in their careers within the next several years. So we sort of understand the situation that we're in currently. And now we're going to talk about a couple of models. The first one is the health belief model. So the health belief model was conceived many years ago in the 1950s. And it states that our willingness to act depends on how much we believe we're at risk for a problem, how serious we think the consequences could be, and whether we see benefits to taking any action. Are there barriers that could prevent us from taking that action, and how confident would we be if we were to take that action? So there have been some researchers over the last several years who have spun off the health belief model into a different direction and conceived of it as a career planning belief model. So attempting to identify the motivation between engaging in behaviors that would contribute to your improved career health. And these same sort of questions could apply. So in a situation of VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, what would be my susceptibility to changes in my job? How severe might that be? What action should I take, and would there be a benefit if I took action or not? So as we think about this belief model, what we really are needing to do is do a career health checkup, and this is something that we should do very regularly. And so I'd like you to take some time here for the next couple of seconds and sort of ponder these questions and do your own career health checkup. So what is my susceptibility to job loss in a time of political and economic VUCA? How severe might the impact be if I were to lose my job? What would be the perceived benefits of taking proactive action to increase my career resilience? What would be the perceived barriers to taking this action? And how capable and self-assured am I that I can improve my career resilience? So keep these questions in mind as we go further in the presentation, and then hopefully we can discuss them as we continue. The good news is that we can develop an immunity to failure, and we can cultivate a bias for action. We can learn quickly, we can iterate, and ensure that we don't waste too much time. So here's where we get to continual improvement. And the continual improvement model arose from ITIL 4. So if you're unfamiliar with ITIL, it was originally known as the IT Infrastructure Library, and it's a framework of best practices for delivering value through IT services. It was a lot about IT service management, and IT service management helps organizations manage risk and strengthen customer relations, and it allows your IT environment to be prepared for growth and scale and organizational change. As part of ITIL 4, they introduced this continual improvement model. And it's basically a framework of steps for an improvement initiative at any scale. So I know that as we get into continual career improvement, so it follows that, if we've got continual improvement in organizations and in projects, it follows that we can spin this off into continual career improvement. So using the same model, the rest of the presentation, we're going to go into some of the steps that are part of the model. We're going to focus on the first 4, the vision, the where are we now, the where do we want to be, and the how do we get there. So I know that, many of us would say that I just want to provide for my family. And certainly we want you to be able to do that. But I would ask you to consider what that looks like. So aside from food and shelter and healthcare, what does it look like to be able to provide for yourself or for your family? Does it look like being able to help your kid with their homework? Does it look like being able to remain or become debt-free? And how about ensuring that you can always keep working, that you can have a retirement, or ensuring that your family is provided for financially if some horrendous thing happens? So I would just ask you, that are the career choices that you're making now, are they helping you to really accomplish those goals so that you and your family can thrive? So the first thing that I would ask you to consider is, where are you going in your career? And one of the best ways that we can answer this question of where are we going is to have a vision. So research has shown that having a vision statement helps engaged followers coordinate and direct collective effort toward a future shared goal. So having a vision statement could, say, help you and your family coordinate and have a collective effort toward your career goal. And also communicating that vision with immediate supervisors or accountability partners help you integrate the vision into your work and help explain your job satisfaction and performance. So as you're approaching a career vision, if we were to take the example of a company or an organization, they're going to be asking themselves questions such as, how do we define success? What is our purpose? What is our vision? How do we assess our business portfolio? What can we learn from what's going on in the market, and what portfolio choices can we make? And how can we ensure successful, sustained change? Similarly, as we approach a life strategy, how would we define a great life? What is my life purpose? What is my life vision? How do I assess my life portfolio? What is going on in the world that I can learn from? And what portfolio choices can I make? And how can I ensure a successful, sustained career change? So what I would encourage you to do, and I know we've got a lot of engineers on the call, and this may feel a little fluffy to you, but I would encourage you to create a vision board. One of the ways you can do this is through going onto Pinterest and searching for images representing your values and goals that you would add to your board. So I'm going to go out of presentation mode for just a moment, and I am going to show you my vision board. And it is basically a list of a bunch of pins where I have thought about things that I want to have eventually in my life. I want to, say, write a book one day. I want to have a home that looks like this, or maybe, have a scooter one day. I want to go on adventures, and I want to present more, and all of those kind of things are contributing to my vision, and then they're sort of continually at the forefront of my mind so that I am acting on that vision. So I would encourage you to spend a little time thinking about your vision and what it is that you want your life and your family's life to be like. The next question and the next technique I would have you ask is, where am I now? And so I would ask you to reflect on your career and on your professional development, and really see where it is you are now, and if that's where you want to be, or if you want something different. So another technique is to do a Wheel of Life assessment. So Wheel of Life assessment would have you over, I think this is 8 different areas: career, money, health, relationships, personal growth, fun, your physical surroundings, your spirituality. These 8 different criteria in your life, and sort of gauge where you are in each of those areas. And it's going to ask you to score, and then based on your score, this is what your Wheel of Life would look like. Say, for example, I need to increase my relationships. I've been working a lot, and I need to spend some time focusing on my relationships. So then, knowing from the Wheel of Life, I could see that I'm kind of low in that area. And so I want to set goals that could help me raise the score in that area. So your next step, I would encourage you to go to wheeloflife.io, and it will give you some ideas on performing your own Wheel of Life career assessment. And then the next question you would ask yourself is, where do I want to be? Again, this is going to take some reflection. I really appreciated this quote because it is something that I have been dealing with as my career has gone longer. And it talks about how reaching the midpoint of your career can be a moment when your achievements, ambitions, and reality collide. You can wrestle with feelings of unmet expectations, realizing that many of your early dreams and aspirations might not happen. But it can also be a profound opportunity for growth, and it's a chance to reevaluate, draw from your experience, and carve out a new path that aligns with your goals for the future. So really, I'm asking you to take a lot of time, and sometimes this is kind of hard because it makes us kind of think hard. But I would ask you to do some of that and really sort of figure out where it is that you want to go. So there are 6 questions that I think are really interesting. And these are questions that you can take some time and really dig into. For example, what will I regret not having done or learned 10 years from now? How do I tap into my purpose? What mastery or gift have I developed that I can offer to the world? What do I want my days to look like? What trade-offs am I willing to make or no longer willing to make? And what's getting better about my life, and what do I want to continue? Then finally, how do we get there? We are engineers, we are analysts, we plan. So planning is essential to ensuring that value is being delivered. Planning typically occurs more than once. You're kind of planning and replanning and updating plans as conditions are changing and new issues are coming up. So the business analysts on the call might be familiar with this. This is the IIBA business analysis concept model, specifically for planning. So the concept would be change. So then you would want to consider, what do I need to change? Need. Okay, what's missing? What's the solution? Of my stakeholders, of my personal support team, who do I need to involve? What value do I hope to achieve? And what do I need to understand? These are all kind of the things that can help you as you're trying to consider your vision, as you're trying to consider your plan of action. So then you would take action. You would work your plan. You would review and measure your progress. You would check in with your support team. You would revise your plan as needed. And then we all need to reward our progress. So then as we start to wrap up, I wanted to sort of share my career journey as a sort of a case study. Pardon me while I cough. Excuse me. All right. So as I said, I've been in my career a long time. In 2015, I left my one and only first professional job. I had been there nearly 20 years. I finally realized that, you know, I was not going to advance where I was, and the influence that I wanted to have, I would not be able to have. I also, from networking and getting to know some other folks in the industry, I realized I was drastically underpaid. I knew I wanted more. I knew I wanted to be able to retire one day. I wanted to be able to have a home of my own and that sort of thing. So I made the decision that it was time for me to move jobs. And I took basically the first job that came along. I had not defined my vision yet, and I was making more money, but it did not get me any closer to where it was that I wanted to be. It was a toxic culture. It was a boring job. And just the organization and the industry, there was a lack of innovation and leadership. So my solution was to skill up. I needed a bigger challenge. I wanted to be part of bigger projects, and I wanted to make a difference. And that's when I started my master's degree. And I also joined a coaching mastermind. Eventually, that led to job number 3. And while I was working on my master's degree, I joined company number 3, and it was a better fit for my talents. It was a great organization, exciting industry. but I realized that there was still not a lot of advancement opportunity for me there. And I could not picture sort of retiring from that organization. Shortly after I graduated with my master's degree, I got recruited to job number 4. And job number 4 was great for a long time. Then a pandemic happened. I decided that with the pandemic, I worked for a company that did layoffs and had some challenges during the pandemic. So I knew that I wanted to keep myself employable. So I did some more reskilling. I got some new certifications. I started my podcast and website. I started speaking a little bit. I founded my coaching company in 2023. Shortly after doing that, I got laid off and was really uncertain where things were going. But through the networking and the work that I had done over the years and the relationships that I had built, I was able to come to STG. That was job number 5, and I was only out of work for a month. So it all ended up working out. At the same time, I was working on my doctorate degree, and I started learning French. So all things that had been sort of part of my vision that had occurred over many years as I worked to develop that vision and act on it. The result is still to be determined, but I feel confident that I've done the things that will help me to continue to remain employed during these volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous times. So the key takeaway: if we actively prepare for VUCA, and embrace continual improvement, pardon me, then we can build the life and career we want. So VUCA will always be with us, but we can proactively prepare for it through continual career improvement, and we can thrive in spite of it. So I would ask you to have a call to action, and I would ask you to do these things. Decide what's your career vision. Take stock of where you are now. Decide where you want to be, and decide how you will get there. And then I've got some materials available for you if you'd like to reach out. Happy to share things that you can help to create your own plan and contract for how you're going to implement these principles in your life and career. And then one last quote: there is only one kind of shock worse than the totally unexpected. The expected for, excuse me, for which one has refused to prepare. And on that note, thank you for your time today. Apologies for the coughing episodes. And I'm happy to take some questions.
I would say, for me, I really liked what you talked about with the uncertainty thing. I think that for a lot of us, the scariest thing right now is the looming threat of AI getting rid of all the software engineering jobs, or getting rid of 4 out of 5 jobs, and those things that people say. or potentially maybe we would still have a job, but it would be at a lower pay, or you'd have significantly less flexibility, those kinds of things. So I appreciated those pieces you talked about with the skilling up. And was just wondering if you had any suggestions on specific stuff for software engineers for what we should look for developers.
Yeah, I would certainly take you back to that vision. What kind of developer do you want to be? Do you want to remain a software engineer? Do you want to broaden your skill set to be an architect? What areas do you want to have experience in? It can be in different domains, like say industries, fintech, security, product, all of that kind of thing. But I would encourage you to get some of get the vision and then get the learning to associate with the vision.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Gosh, I went through that fast. I thought it would take a lot more time. Well, I'm going to have to get after Neil. Neil just left the meeting. Any questions about I don't know, education or any other assessments? Do you have questions for me or questions about any of the techniques that we talked about?
I have a
Who's
question.
going? Oh, go ahead, Melissa.
Yeah. Well, first, I just want to say thanks so much. That was awesome with, just starting out with STG. This is really great. And I'm already getting all these ideas for things I want to do as I'm developing my career development plan. And so this has been really great. And I was actually met with a really good friend of mine over the weekend, and she has just been a stay-at-home mom. And unfortunately, in their situation with her husband, he's not making enough, so she's trying to figure these things out. And so I just feel like this was a lot of good information that I could share with her and kind of direct her to these types of things. So thank you.
You bet.
But my question was with the vision statement. I think it was Harvard Business Review was the no. Do you have like a template for that or any tips on how to create that? I just want to.
Yeah, a lot of that is going to be personal work, and that's where I found the Pinterest board to be super helpful. I started looking at images that appealed to me and appealed to my hopes for the future and that kind of thing. And the more I did that, say for example, I had been listening to a lot of podcasts on my commute, and I had my Pinterest board that thought, oh, a podcast might be kind of fun. I could probably do something like that. And decided to start a podcast. And you will find that, how like the snowball picks up more and more snow as it's going downhill kind of thing. That's sort of what ended up happening for me is the more that I started doing some things like, oh, I'll do the podcast. Oh, well, maybe I should have a website to post the recordings of the podcast. Oh, now that I've got this website, maybe I should have this and that. And so, the vision has sort of happened as I've been going along and as I've been embracing new things and new opportunities.
Okay.
I don't know if that helps.
No,
at all.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
You bet.
Tracie, first, yeah, thanks so much. That was so good for someone who's not even a software developer or anything like that. It was so much I could take away. I've been thinking a lot about my own career vision, and that gave me some good information to get more clear on what that vision is. So thank you. And I just wanted to put a quick plug in because William talked about AI. Thank you, Will. We have the Career Transformation Expo coming up June 25th to talk more about AI and what that looks like for, specifically for you guys as software developers and consultants at STG. And that come eat barbecue and learn from some of the experts. And, Colby is incredible at AI. He's going to have a couple classes and it'll be a cool thing. So hope to see you there.
Yeah,
Thanks, Tracie.
Thanks for that plug, Trev. That's super, super cool that we're going to be having that expo. When I think of AI, I think I want to sort of target how I'm going to approach AI, because I think sometimes we can let the fear of AI sort of scatter us in different directions. And so for me, it's been more about how is it that I want to use AI in my career? What are companies going to be asking about in relation to AI? And how do I think I can contribute to that using AI? And so I try and really ask myself those questions so that I'm not sort of all over the place when it comes to AI. And that might be a good approach for the rest of you as well.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, then. And Jen, I was actually thinking of you as how do we want our families to thrive? And I almost asked the question for you and Melissa, what does your family thriving look like? Does it look like Disney once a month or,
I knew that's where you were going to go with that. And when you said it. Yes, it does, Tracie. That was super great information. Thank you so much.
So just a little plug for me. I do have a business called Traceability Coaching. And I do have a business page on LinkedIn, and I love STG. I love working for STG. I love doing this other stuff on the side. So if you ever have questions, if you want to engage with traceability traceability coaching on LinkedIn, please do. I'd be happy to connect and get to know you all and answer any questions you might have.
Thanks so much, Tracie, and thanks everybody.
All right, then. Thanks, everybody. So glad that you came today and really appreciate your time and hanging in there with me while I was having my coughing episode. So good to have you all at STG.
Thank you so much, Tracie. That was awesome. Nice
Thanks,
to meet you.
Tracie.
Thank
ya.
you. It's so great to be here.